Tony Kay OBE is the UK's Deputy Ambassador to Brazil. He is one of his generation's outstanding diplomats, with a record at the Foreign Office that has seen him serve British interests all over the world. These include his time in Hong Kong, Eastern Europe, Canada, as well as working across North Africa and the Middle East. Prior to his current role in Brazil, Tony was Deputy Ambassador to Israel. Alongside his work at the FCO, Tony has attended the Royal College of Defence Studies, and he holds an MA in International Security and Strategy from King's College London. He has dedicated his professional life to public service and to the intense demands of global diplomacy from the early 1990s to our current age of pandemics, climate change, Brexit, cyber warfare, and sometimes the seemingly unending global security challenges. Among far too many cases to be possible to discuss in detail here today, in 2011, all his skills as a diplomat were tested in the storm of an international crisis that had placed British citizens overseas in immediate and grave danger. In Tehran, Iran, the British embassy had been suddenly stormed and ransacked. Then Foreign Secretary William Hague had decided on the necessity of a full evacuation of all staff and their families. At the time, Tony was Director for Consular and Crisis in the Middle East and was tasked to set about developing the extraction plan. At one point, Tony was running the extraction in real time with 2 mobile phones. One phone direct to his colleague, the Deputy Ambassador to Iran, and the other phone line directly to the House of Commons, where the Foreign Secretary was updating Parliament. To cut a complex and long story short, the evacuation plan was implemented within 48 hours. It was a multiple partner operation, including working with international partners, airlines, and passport authorities. Tony Kay recalls the moment he was able to relay the news from Iran that the first flight out had departed. The news was good, and the Foreign Secretary was able to tell Parliament, wheels up. The first plane was on its way out of Iran and back to the UK. Alongside the crisis in Tehran, during the Arab Spring, Tony helped to manage multiple highly challenging evacuation missions from, among others, Syria, Egypt, Libya, and Tunisia. The tumult of the Arab Spring precipitating the need to safely and swiftly move British citizens out of the dangers of civil unrest. It was for this work that Tony received an OBE from Her Majesty the Queen in 2012, which was conferred on him at Buckingham Palace by the then Prince of Wales, and now HM the King. Tony is not only a brilliant diplomat, but also an essentially modest, and dare I say, also very witty one. Talking to me about his time at the Glasgow COP meeting on climate change in 2021, he remembers encounter with Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada. Tony had met Trudeau some years before, during his posting to Canada, when Trudeau had been an opposition politician. Spurred on by the connection, Kay reached out again at the Glasgow conference. He approached Trudeau, and it quickly became clear that the Canadian Prime Minister recognised his interlocutor. "Tony, how nice to see you again." Kay was delighted and remarked, "You remember me after all these years?" Trudeau replied, "Tony is written on your lapel badge." We are especially honoured to welcome Tony Kay to our community today and to celebrate his career to date, also because of his long-standing connection to us. Tony has worked extensively with our own recent head of orchestra, Dr. Crispin Ward. Crispin was working in Moldova for the Moldovan Symphonic Orchestra in 2002-03 in a series of prestigious and important cultural activities funded by the British Embassy, where Tony, was based at the time. On New Year's Eve 0203, then President Voronin of Moldova was honouring Crispin Ward's work. But all of a sudden, the embassy had to step in to the rescue. This time, Tony lending Crispin a suit for the occasion. Crispin fondly recalls that the suit was a little too large for him, but it did the job. Much more seriously, Crispin and Tony were engaged in powerful and long-standing cultural diplomacy, where British music and the arts helped support the democratic development of post-Soviet Eastern Europe. Tony Kay had been there right at the start of this groundbreaking era, and he was the first deputy head of mission in the newly created British Embassy for Moldova, which today, in 2026, has become a thriving centre for British diplomacy in southeastern Europe. I had the great pleasure of welcoming Tony to our Chichester campus 2 years ago to encourage our students of international relations and political history to plan their careers in the civil service or the Foreign Office. It was a true privilege to learn from him and to see our students gain from listening to his extraordinary real-world experiences in international diplomacy. It was a wonderful set of classes, clever, thought-provoking, clear and shaped to bring insightful and nuanced consideration to the themes. Tony has told me he would like to continue to offer his insights to our students for many years to come. We are truly honoured and delighted to be presenting Tony Kay today with his honorary degree and to celebrating his many, many achievements in international public administration. Vice-Chancellor, I present to you Tony Kay OBE for an Honorary Doctor of Public Administration of the University of Chichester.
Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. There you go. Right. Vice-Chancellor, Pro-Chancellor, friends, colleagues, ladies, gentlemen, Maya, Luca, Callum, Crispin. It is a singular honour to be here this morning to receive this honour of an honorary doctorate. And before I say a few words, I've actually got a surprise for everyone in the room in this wonderful cathedral today. As well as working in some pretty tough places, I've had the great pleasure of meeting many, many interesting and historic and important people. And most recently in Brazil, we welcomed the Prince of Wales to Brazil for events to celebrate the 200th anniversary of the UK-Brazil relationship. And I got chatting with His Royal Highness. And I said, look, I'm going to Chichester Cathedral in a couple of months. It wouldn't be good to give everyone a nice little surprise. So the Prince of Wales had a word with his father. And I'm delighted to announce that all of you in this room, both behind me and ahead of me, are invited on behalf of the British government, full expenses paid, to attend the next special occasion for the UK-Brazil relationship in Brazil. So we'll be delighted to welcome you all for the 300th anniversary of the UK-Brazil relationship. And that invitation is not transferable. But it is an honour to be here this morning, and I'm going to talk a little bit about meaning and purpose. In my career, I've travelled all around the Middle East, North Africa, Asia, Latin America, and so on. And one of the things that I've always found quite difficult is a sense of inequality. There are too many people on the planet who don't have the opportunities that we have had purely because of where they were born, the communities that they were born in, the poverty that they were born in, and so on. And as a career diplomat, I used to think that the key to addressing that inequality was through diplomacy. I wouldn't I, as a diplomat? But after re-entering the educational kind of field in the last couple of years, it's made me realize that education is the key. And education is the key to all of us having meaning and purpose in our lives. When you think about all the great characters in history, whether it's Robert Louis Stevenson, whether it's Nelson Mandela, Churchill, whoever you think is great in your ecosystems, someone inspired them to do that, right? Someone inspired them to have that vision. They were probably surrounded by people who worked harder than them or were cleverer than them. But what they all experienced is that regardless of what they've done in their lives, someone taught them that. Someone taught them not just the engineering or the computing or whatever it is, or the law or what have you. Someone inspired them in their educational background to be that leader, to be that visionary, and to have that meaning and purpose. So moving forward, have that meaning and purpose in your lives, but have some fun doing it as well. No one's going to remember you for working 60 hours a week, or in the case of a university professor, 16 hours a week. They laughed a few. Have some fun while you're doing it. Have that extra beer. Buy those shoes, Vice Chancellor. Stay out a little bit late when you got that deadline the following day. But the most important thing to remember moving forward, wherever you are in the world, call your mum and dad. And if you get into trouble, give me a call. So thank you. Thank you again.